Guys, here is your Chapter 18 summary, which is psychosocial development in late adulthood. So in late adulthood is when we reach Erikson's eighth and final stage of development, ego integrity versus despair. So older adults evaluate and accept their lives so that they can accept death. There can be a struggle to achieve a sense of coherence and wholeness rather than despair over their inability to change the past. So just kind of accepting things how they are. The 5-factor model, where we talked about personality and personality traits, there does seem to be long-term stability noted in personality, that people's personalities generally stay the same throughout life. In late adulthood, however, we do see an increase in agreeableness, warmth, self-confidence, emotional stability, and conscientiousness. We also see declines in neuroticism, social vitality, and openness to experience. Personality can be a predictor of health and well-being, especially a person's mental health. Well-being in late adulthood, generally older adults have fewer mental disorders and are happier, are more satisfied with life than younger adults. In some adults, we can see a sharp and rapid decline in well-being and life satisfaction about 3 to 5 years before death because things are happening, changes in their life like a loss of a spouse, increasing mobility limitations, deteriorating health. Knowledge that the end is near can sometimes cause that decline. Coping and mental health. Coping is adaptive thinking or behavior aimed at reducing or relieving stress that arises from harmful, threatening, or challenging conditions. The cognitive appraisal model, where people choose appropriate coping strategies to deal with situations that task their normal resources based on their continuous appraisal of their relationship with the environment. Problem-focused coping is a strategy focused on eliminating, managing, or improving a stressful situation. Emotional-focused coping is a strategy focused on managing your emotional responses to a stressful situation or how you could improve it. Older adults tend to use more emotion-focused, kind of accepting the situation and trying to manage their feelings about it. And older adults tend to be more religious than younger adults, which is another coping strategy. Successful aging, there are a couple key factors here. One is avoidance of disease and disability. 2 is maintenance of high physical and cognitive functioning. And 3 is sustained active engagement in social and productive activities. The disengagement theory proposes that successful aging is characterized by mutual withdrawal of the older person and society. But research has provided little evidence to support this theory. The activity theory states that to age successfully, a person must remain as active as possible. This theory may be a little bit too simplistic, but there does seem to be some research that supports that. The more active we are, typically the healthier we are in older age. The continuity theory, in order to age successfully, people must maintain a balance of continuity and change in both the internal and external structures of their lives. And productive activity has been shown to have positive effects on older adults. That's why so many try to remain active, volunteer, do things to keep themselves busy. Selective optimization with compensation is enhancing overall cognitive functioning by using stronger abilities to compensate for those that have declined. Typically, older people select fewer and more meaningful activities. They optimize the resources available to them to achieve their goals, and they compensate for losses by using resources in alternative ways to achieve their goals. Practical and social issues, work and retirement. The line between work and retirement is not as clear as it once used to be. Many adults do go back to work after retirement. Most adults who can retire do retire, but the proportion of workers over the age of 65 has increased sharply in the past few years. How well one adjusts to retirement. There are things like financial well-being, job-related variables such as stress. If there was a lot of stress on the job, retirement might be a relief from that. Family-related variables such as marriage quality and dependence, spending more time with them now that they're retired. Retirement-related variables such as retirement planning, and post-retirement activities such as bridge employment or volunteering. Another big thing is, how is someone going to afford retirement? Social Security is the biggest way that older adults are funding their retirements. Assets, private pensions still exist for this age group, earnings, and Medicare. Women are more likely than men to live in poverty in old age. Living arrangements. Most older adults live alone or with a partner or spouse. Aging in place is remaining in one's own home, either with or without assistance later in life. They may get assistance with meals, transportation, home health aides, low-cost home modifications, things like modifying the bathroom to be a little safer. There are a lot of agencies now. I actually just saw a commercial on TV this weekend about an aging in place agency where they've come in and help with some of the day-to-day tasks in your house so that you can remain there. Living alone, due to the fact that people live longer now, we're seeing more and more older adults living alone, especially women, because they do tend to outlive men. Also with increased home ownership, more elder-friendly housing, community support, and reduced public assisting with nursing home costs. So nursing homes are very, very expensive. And so being at home might be an only option. Another option is living with their adult children. Most older people are reluctant. They don't want to be a burden on their family, nor do they want to give up their independence. They would much rather stay on their own. But it's usually done for either economic reasons. They can't financially stay on their own anymore, or mobility safety issues. It also depends on the quality of the relationship in the past and the ability to openly communicate as to how well that's going to work. Living in institutions like nursing homes, it's usually seen as a last resort. Fewer than half report a good quality of life once there. Some aren't left any choice due to things like dementia, increasing frailty, caregiver illness, or behavioral issues. Alternative housing options are things like age-qualified active adult communities, or assisted living, which is housing for older adults with 24-hour access to healthcare services. But there is a lot of variation in what services are available in these communities. Personal relationships in late life. Most older adults retain a stable circle of friends and family who they can rely on, and that affects their well-being. People who are socially isolated and lonely tend to show more rapid decline in function than those who are not. And we are seeing an increase in multi-generational families living under the same roof because this helps with caregiving, kind of on both ends. Marital relationships, long-term marriage, older married couples report higher satisfaction and fewer adjustment problems. Couples who believe strongly in marriage, share responsibility for decision-making, and share household chores are more likely to be happy. Widowhood, at this age, the death of a spouse does become more common, unfortunately. Women who outlive their husbands are less likely to get remarried. Husbands who outlive their wives are more likely to get remarried. And this has been linked to mortality. There are the sharpest declines in health within 6 months of the passing of a spouse. Divorce and remarriage. Divorce is less likely in older adults, but the incidence is rising. Non-marital lifestyles and relationships, the number of single adults, older adults, has risen in the past few decades. Never married adults tend to prefer single life and are less likely to be lonely than divorced or widowed people. About 14% of older adults are in a dating relationship. They live apart together, meaning they each maintain their own home, but they're in a relationship, dating, and spend time with each other at each other's houses. That's becoming more common. They're in a committed relationship, but again, living in separate houses. Cohabitation, the rates have risen sharply for older adults. The relationships do tend to remain more stable than younger adults. Gay and lesbian relationships, there's little research on this population because it wasn't as common to come out when they were younger. And friendships, maintaining friendships is important for well-being. It helps to deal with role losses of spouses, siblings, and some older adults prefer spending more time with friends than family. Non-marital kinship ties, so things like relationships with adult children. There are fewer children than in previous generations. Most older adults maybe have 1, 2, 3 kids, where in other generations there were 5 or 6 or 7 kids to help take care of the aging parents. In the United States, 57% have a near adult child within what they call close distance, and 50% report contact with a child, usually a daughter, at least once a week. Adult children begin to give more support than they take. They're supporting their older parents at this point. And parents of adult children with disabilities will remain caregivers as long as both are alive. Relationships with siblings It's an important role in the social network. Those siblings are kind of the oldest friends that you have. They provide companionship and emotional support in older age. And how much you keep in contact with your siblings usually remains pretty stable throughout life. So if you kept in great contact throughout your younger years, you probably will remain that way as you age. Caring for an ill sibling is less stressful than caring for an ill spouse, child, or parent, and the loss of a sibling can cause loneliness and depression. All right, that's it for this chapter. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.